Welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts to see what is happening on a long timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at Schnell Investor, and you can also find my blogs on gregschnell.com as well as StockCharts.com. I want to cover off home builders today, and are they firing up or are they on fire? And I think they're firing up, and I want to cover that off and show you how that looks technically. I know we've had some good reports out of TV, and they'll talk about one or they'll talk about the other. The idea, what you'll find is, and this group is shaping up particularly well to point this out. So I want to cover off the group from a technical perspective and just show how a leading group starts to look. So we're going to use home builders through technical analysis. And so we're not going to cover off the earnings or their developments or anything like that. We're just literally going to look what investors think about the area. And if you'd like more information about the services we offer through gregschnell.com website, feel free to head over there. And Dwight posts some great stuff there for me as well. He posts the 5 setups every day, really nice charts. And what would you get? You'd get weekly newsletters, weekly videos, monthly recorded setups, 5 trade setups per day. So hopefully lots for you to take a look at. Now, the reason I covered off home building, and I mentioned it last week, was I was trying to get a home patio built, and we had a problem where our trees are so big that the grass wasn't growing underneath them and all that kind of stuff. Just the everything was getting compressed. So what we wanted to do was fix up this backyard and get it looking a lot better. And so I went to order some patio stones installed by a contractor, and it all turned out pretty well. This is just as they were almost finished. But the point I want to make is these patio stones were, the local supplier said they were sold out, and they had already sold 4 times what they had sold in the previous year. So this home renovation backyard patio area was just being swamped with it, and I mentioned it in the market or in the Daily 5 on Monday. I covered off a stock named Lifetime, and their ticker symbol looks pretty good, LCUT. And one of the things that we're seeing across the spaces now that people aren't traveling, they're reinvesting in their home or they're buying new homes, and this is really taking off. So this is what spurred me on to kind of cover off this area a little bit better. You might have heard about the home construction on TV. You probably heard that they're having a banner year, that kind of thing. How does that look on a chart? And the point is that you can see this coming on the charts, and that's the point I'd like to make, is you don't have to go through all of the earnings of every single company to find out what's going on. That doesn't hurt, but it definitely, one of the things that you'll see on these charts is the investors are liking this space. Okay, let's jump in. And the area that I want to start with, so actually let's go to the sort order first. So what I've done is I have an industry group called Home Construction, and if you have followed my work at all, I have industry groups for a whole bunch of different types of areas, and then let's say forestry stocks are breaking out, I'll just click on that and start to look. Well, what I've done here is I've set up one for home construction, and the idea is to, if home construction is breaking out, I just want to go look at all of those stocks together and see how they're doing. I don't really want to go through the entire consumer discretionary area. I want to just focus in on this specific site. So I've got this set up for 3 months, and what you'll see over here on the far right is the stocks have done pretty well. Here's the change, and the second component of the way I've sorted them here is I've put in home construction and home improvement retailers, but instead of doing the strongest first going to the weakest, I'm going to start at the weakest and go to the strongest, and you'll see how the chart develops and how that scooter ranking changes over time to show the best names first. The worst name in the space is at 60%. The best name is at 95% compared to their peers. That's very, very strong. So we want to cover that off. And then the second component that we want to cover off is looking through the home improvement retailers. And, we've got quite a few of these up in the 90% level. These things are just humming. So obviously doing very, very well. In Home Depot, we hear about quite a bit. The scooter ranking is 85%. It's up about 19% in the last 3 months. But look at Wayfair, up a double in the last 3 months, and Lumber Liquidators up 200%. So big moves, and one of the things that the technical analysis can help you find is that stronger mover by looking at the scooter rankings. Doesn't always help this. Haverty Furniture really made all of its moves in 2 weeks. I'll show you that chart. But the idea being that when we sort by putting things together like this, we can quickly compare the peers and try to see which ones are the stronger ones. The scooter ranking is a shortcut to help us get there. What you'll see is the scooter ranking is a longer timeline, so it doesn't necessarily reflect this week's change that quickly. But what we want to know is that all of the stocks are performing well within that industry group, and when they do perform well, then we can use that information to help us go find the bigger players in the area. So here's Cavco, and the idea behind looking at Cavco, first of all, let's talk about the indicator. So I have the SCTR ranking on this declining, and you can see lower peaks for the last year as this goes forward. So the stock isn't as strong as some of the other stocks we'll see. But it's the scooter ranking is downtrending, and that's not really my friend. I kind of want it to be turning the other way and starting to tilt up at least. And then we see that it's struggling at prior highs here. Now it could turn around and finally get momentum, break through this 220 level and make new 6-month highs, get through 240 and make new multi-year highs, and then get through 260 and go on to higher highs. I fully get that. Right now the stock isn't one of the strongest ones, and I think based on the length of time the rally's been going on, the fact that this is just kind of moderating here, it doesn't mean drop it, but it does mean pay attention. I want to see the PPO, the percentage price oscillator, start to push to higher ground here and break through this downtrend in momentum. Over here on the left, what we see is we had an uptrend in momentum and the stock was doing very, very well. And now what we've had is a higher low based on the bottom of the COVID cycle. And we have a downtrend on each one of these rallies. It hasn't been able to get up to prior highs. So the idea being we want the stock to start making higher momentum waves as we get going forward. And until it can do that, that's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to want to invest in that. I'd like to find something already starting to do that, and I'll show that look in a little bit here. So here's new home construction, and what we see is the PPO is starting to push above to its highest level in multiple years. Very, very strong look. And the stock was down to $1. It's up at $4.50. That's a pretty nice look. And again, that's a triple off the bottom. Now, it wouldn't take much for another, 30% gain to get to new 52-week highs. The point I'd like to make is look at the scooter ranking here. This stock never really does outperform. Doesn't get up into this top 25%, which is what we'd like to see. And when we get into the stronger stocks, you're going to see that they do that. Here's KB Homes. And KB Homes has had periods where it goes almost a year being one of the top performing stocks. And look at this run from $16 to $38. You can get by on that kind of income. And then pushing down for a whole year, and the scooter ranking gets weak here and says, kind of be careful here. The stock isn't performing that well. That was very clear. And then 2019 had a good year. Scooter ranking was up above 75%, very, very strong. And now it's right back at this 75% level. And again, there's a downtrend here. Let's just click on this and go annotate that. There's a downtrend in momentum. And we want to make sure that starts to change. That would help. And what we see is on the PPO is this downtrend in momentum has already broken out, and that makes me very, very happy. And normally I like to draw trend lines on my momentum indicators, and when they start to break out, I want to pay attention, and when they start to break down, I want to be aware of that change. The scooter ranking was still nice and strong in mid-February, but what was telling us the momentum was changing was this breakdown on the PPO on the weekly chart. And it ended up going on for a full year. So this would have got you out nice and early. And again, all of the stocks, I want you to pay attention, particularly to the 2018 and then the January-February period for 2020, because you're going to see a lot of similar patterns set up across the industry group. And that's one of the real strengths of using technical analysis to help evaluate. You can see how did the stock do back at a prior high, and in this case, now what we want to see, it's at 38.50. Well, there's a lot of tops here: 37, 40, 35, 36, 38. This is a real zone of resistance, and we want to see this KB Homes actually kick through it. And the fact that the PPO is breaking the downtrend suggests to me that's going to happen. I like to use that as one of my earlier indicators. Okay. So now we have Beazer Homes, and what we see on Beazer Homes, this stock is just at 75% on the scooter ranking, and it does a great job. It runs up and then falls apart, and runs up and falls apart, and runs up, falls apart, runs up, falls apart. The idea being you want to get involved as the stock is starting to push higher, and in this case it's just moving above its 40-week moving average. This is pretty nice. Can it actually start to break out? And I like the fact that the PPO has moved into positive territory. Again, it could stay up here for 2 years in positive territory, or 15 months, whatever. That's a very nice move. For part of it, you've gone sideways and didn't really have a lot of price action, but it wasn't hurting you. It was still consolidating within an uptrend and then continued to go higher. I like it when the PPO gets into positive territory. That's one clue that things are starting to improve. And again, the scooter ranking here is around 75%. Looking at Taylor Morrison Homes, what we see is we're at $26 and lots of highs in around here. So we're right trying to get through this 28, 28, 28, 26, all of these different levels. Again, early 2018, February 2020. These were important levels to be aware of on this stock as well. PPO is now in positive territory and trying to extend higher. The chart looks good, but we need to make sure it can break through this prior high. There's a reason it sold off in 2017 and 2018 and 2019 and 2020 at the same area. That's kind of as good as it gets, and the stock rolls over. So we want to make sure it's got the horsepower to kick through. Now here's MDC, and in 2018 it was actually already declining from prior highs, and then late in 2019 put in a big rush, pulled back, and then another run up towards the high, failed in February, pulled down, and now went on to make new highs, not quite new highs, 47.35 and 47.71 is the prior intra-week high. PPO is up at a very nice high level. These lines are wide apart, suggesting the momentum is still there. I want to make sure that holds, and again, I want to watch the whole industry group to make sure that that is going to happen. So right now this looks very strong. Again, last week was its highest closing high ever for the week. This was an intra-week bar, and it closed down near the bottom, but in this case we've closed up near the top, so this still looks good. And until these all start to roll over, I think we're okay. So here's Pointe Homes, and again, we're trying to make new 52-week highs. Last week we got to 1853. This week we're not quite getting through to this 1863 yet. Our high for the week is 1853. Again, pretty big resistance. If we can make new 52-week highs, that looks pretty solid. And then we'd have to get through 1955 to take out and make new all-time highs. So that's pretty big momentum, and what you see is the PPO is higher than it's been before. That does not mean it's at a top. This thing can run for a long time, and it can sit above zero and just oscillate for many years if that's what it wanted to do. Here's Skyline Corp. What we want to focus on this particular chart, we have a high and then a lower low, a high, which is in this case slightly higher than the previous one, so let's call it a double top, and then we make a lower low, and now we've rallied back up and we're at $32. We want to see this push up above those prior highs. One of the big clues for me on this chart is that this downtrend in momentum is changing, and the PPO is moving just above zero right now. That's a very positive place to get on board. And back in 2017, it moved above zero, went sideways for a few months, and then it continued to run on for quite a while after that. So it's just getting its momentum going. We do want to see it push above those prior highs. The PPO momentum change tells me that could definitely happen now that we're starting to improve in our momentum. And the second component is our scooter ranking. for the small caps is getting up around 80%. So behaving better than 80% of the small caps out there. I think that's pretty bullish. Looking at MI Homes, this one is sitting at 47.67, and what we see here is 48.02 was the prior high in January 2020, and back in January 2018, 37.41 was the prior high. So again, a peak in the 2018 period, and then the pre-COVID drop, pre-COVID peak with a drop following it, and now we're rallying back up to those levels. Is this overdone? Well, we don't know that, but what we do know is the PPO is well into positive territory. It's up near the previous highs, which you could say that could be a resistance level, but I want to think of it more from the width the bands are apart. So far, we haven't seen any moderation here, and the run just seems to keep continuing every week. So as long as, let's say this 10-week average in blue here holds, you probably want to try and ride those uptrends, much like in the 2019 period. So that looks pretty solid. And again, on each of these charts, we're seeing the scooter ranking push up to higher levels and higher levels than the chart before, because we're getting into stronger stocks as we go. So here's Century Communities, and what we see on this stock is the scooter ranking has been pinned above 75 for almost 3 months now. The stock is running really, really well. About 4 weeks ago, it hit 38.43, and it was trying to get through this 39.31, which was just that February high. And then we go back to 2018, and we've got a high in here at 36. So you can just see all of these home building stocks have just kept hitting this wall, and now we're going to start to see some strong ones breaking out here. But this stock this week, its new high was 40.39, and that clearly puts it above those old highs. Now what we want to make sure is that it keeps going. A lot of times what you'll see is it'll get up here and then it'll consolidate for a little while, and what you want to make sure is it keeps going higher, doesn't fall back. So this is a pretty important place, but I like the fact that the PPO on this chart has broken out to new 5-year highs. Like, that's as much momentum as you can get. And again, a $10 move to $40 move, what's wrong with that? A couple 100% for friends. Looking in on Pulte Group, this stock shot up about 6 weeks ago and has been inching its way to its prior high at 47.05. Our current high is 48 this week. So we've taken out that prior high, which is very bullish. But again, we're still testing the prior high, much like we are on the S&P 500. And what we want to make sure is that this continues to go higher. But everything on the chart looks pretty solid, and until we start to see some momentum waning, we don't really have that yet. Everything looks positive and is tilted up and to the right. And the scooter ranking sitting for a large cap, this is a bigger home builder, but for a large cap stock, it's at 85%. So it's behaving better than 85% of the stocks out there. And it was a move from 17 to 48. That's another 300% move. So pretty nice off the lows. Toll Brothers. This was a $13 stock. It's a $47 stock now, $46 stock now. So that's another awesome move here. And what we see is, again, this February high, the January 2018 high, and we're trying to push above those levels. And last week we had a super surge, right, from $40 to $45, and now we're trying to get going. So I like everything about these charts. They're all starting to push up. And again, if they can break through prior highs, that's pretty valuable. We do have the Toll Brothers scooter ranking now, again, at the mid-cap stocks, 87%. So behaving better than 87% of the mid-cap stocks out there. That's just bullish. Our PPO is moving up to the highest level in a couple of years. The bands are still wide apart, suggesting lots of momentum. And, usually that's a good place to get on board when you have lots of momentum and you're breaking out to new highs. So here's Lennar, and this stock is doing very well, right? It's pushed up nicely. The relative strength compared to the S&P 500 outperforming. Compared to its peers, it's up at 90%. So it's doing really, really well. This is a large cap stock. And what we see is it broke above this $71 high. Look at that $71 high. Figure out the dates, pretty much the same. And what we're seeing is an $80 number now. So this is broken out 4 to 6 weeks ago to new all-time highs, kind of consolidated in the range, and then really started to accelerate away. It looks very, very good. The PPO is at the highest level going back for 5 years. Lots of momentum. As long as it stays above the 10-week moving average, I think you want to try and hold that. Here's LGI Homes, and they struggled to get through this $80 level for a long time, and then pushed above. This was 81, then 89, 95, and now 123. And what you see is it consolidated as it got up to the prior highs and then shot up for 2 weeks and now is consolidated for another 6 weeks. We'd like to see this keep going. It's behaving better than 90% of its peers. It's a good looking stock. Nothing wrong with that. And here's Meritage Homes. Now this one's a really interesting chart for a couple of reasons. First of all, its 2018 high was a lot lower than its 2019 high. So this 54 level, this was $76 in November of 2019, actually October. And then we got up to $76 again briefly late January. And the stock rolled over into the COVID crisis. And then came back to the 76 level, worked it sideways horizontally for 5 or 6 weeks, and then broke out to the upside from 76, and it's at 106. That's another 30% move above the prior highs, and the PPO is way up at new 5-year highs. But I like one thing on this stock better than some of the other charts. First of all, it's still got rising highs, whereas a lot of the other stocks were stuck at their prior highs. The scooter ranking is better than 90% of the stocks out there, and it has experienced it being up here as a winner for a while. And I like the fact that since the rally in 2017, the rally in 2019 was even better. This looks like more of a leader to me in the fact that it's starting to behave so well and is really pushing up. And again, if it pulled back to $90 just to the 10-week moving average and kept moving up in the uptrend, it's still positive. Now here's Hovnanian, and I like this chart as well. A couple of reasons. One, let's just go annotate it. And I covered this one off on the daily 5 that I did on Monday, August the 24th. But I like the fact that it's breaking out of this downtrend in momentum, pushing higher. It made a higher low on this low, and now it's starting to break out to new all-time highs. Or not new all-time highs, but new 52-week highs, and that's very, very bullish. It had to get through 32.55. It made it up to 35 last week, and we want to see this continue. Again, it's breaking out. It might consolidate for 5 or 6 weeks, but then try and continue on its way. One thing I don't like is how much lower the February high was compared to the 2018 high. After all of the stocks we've looked at, the fact that it was this is $85 back in 2018 and only $32 now. The stock looks less strong here, but I think it's just starting to get its wind. I do like the fact that the PPO push was higher in 2019, suggesting a change in momentum, maybe new home designs or whatever, but they got something going on there. So like that chart in particular because it's starting to improve. Okay, DR Horton. This one broke out above its $61 high and continues to push up. Been running for 6 weeks now. Up another $15 above 60, so another 25%. Really a strong name. And look at the PPO soaring up to higher levels than anywhere on the chart. Everything looks very, very good there. I'm not going to cover this AeroGrow International. It's more of a marijuana name, so it's not really the subject matter we have today. Beacon Roofing Supply. What we see here is this stock, again, we're starting at the weakest for the home improvement retailers and trying to get going. But this stock is trying to break through these prior highs, and it wouldn't take much to get to new 52-week highs, and the PPO is at a higher level than all of 2019, so I like the momentum, and I would expect it to kind of continue. Home Depot, I'm sure you've heard about it on TV, breaking out to new highs. This is very, very bullish, but again, the scooter ranking is at 85% compared to its large cap peers, and in there is tech names, so that's a pretty difficult group to be compared to, but it's doing very, very well and is sitting up around $290. BMC stock holdings, I don't know what they make, but what I do know is the stock broke out to new highs a couple weeks ago and is now consolidating up around that area. Everything looks fine. There's nothing not to like here. It was having a nice run in 2019 before COVID. And so if it can keep that going, perhaps this stock has got lots more room to run. Looks very, very good to me. Here's Floor and Decor. Again, this $58 to $60 level was resistance. It broke out 6 weeks ago and is now starting to move up higher. And after 6 or 7 weeks, this is still rocking, and it made higher highs again this week at 73.37. So everything looks pretty good. Nothing not to like here. Working really well. Here's Kingfisher. What we see on Kingfisher is new 52-week highs and trying to make it through the spring highs back in 2019 at $6.99. We made it to $7.27 this week, so we're going all the way back into the September timeframe of 2018, so very close to 2-year highs. Scooter ranking is starting to head up here. I like it a lot. One of the things is you'll see with the scooter ranking, the stock has underperformed its peers a lot. So this would be, it IPO'd about 5 years ago and hasn't really done anything for 4 of those 5. Now it's starting to really perform from $2.50 to $7. And the real question is, can it get going? I like the fact that the PPO is at the highest level on the chart. That makes me more interested. Looking at Haverty Furniture, what we want to see on this one, this stock moved a whole bunch in 3 weeks and is now consolidating. I don't like this chart with so much spikiness. It's really hard to be invested, and all of a sudden you get a 10% or 20% move down very quickly. So this isn't my favorite chart, but without question it's hard to argue with that 3-week move up to new highs. Tile Shop Holdings, one of the things I like about this stock is it was a dog for 4 years. I get that. The scooter ranking is now showing it at 90% of the small caps. It went from $20 down to 10 cents at the COVID low and is pushing above $2 right now and breaking this really big long trend line. So lots to like in this area. It might consolidate a bit here, but the PPO is moving up to one of the highest levels going on. And then we have Restoration Hardware breaking out to new highs roughly 6 weeks ago. Well, it actually broke out even before that, 3 months ago, consolidated for 6 weeks and has really started to grind higher here. Relative strength looking very solid. I like how smooth the price action is. Looks very, very good. It is starting to moderate somewhat, but it still looks very positive. Hard to argue with this. Lowe's Corp is unbelievable. This thing has just rocketed up. It was on an uptrend for 2018 and 19 and now really spiked at this 120 level, consolidated to 120, 130, and then all of a sudden went from 130 to 170 over the last 6 weeks. Very, very big move. PPO at the highest level going back on the chart. No reason to start betting against it yet. It still looks very, very positive. Lumber Liquidators, this one is a massive move. It went from $4 to $28. That's a 7x move. New 2-year highs on the stock. Scooter ranking performing very, very well. I think as long as it can continue this uptrend, you want to hold it above the 10-week moving average. And lastly, Wayfair. Stock's been unbelievable from 25 to 250, a 10x mover, breaking out above 173. What's not to like? And again, ordering your stuff online for delivery for your backyard or your house. Wayfair's got lots going on, so they're a real strong competitor in that whole space. So with that, thank you for taking the time to join me on Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. You can also see the recording on the StockCharts TV YouTube page. You can also find U.S. and Canadian market reviews on the StockCharts YouTube page. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to join me. Have a good week. Everything still looks positive for the markets, and if these start to correct, maybe look for them at the 10-week. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.